Hello and welcome to the Fire in the Belly show. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we have Therese Allison. Good afternoon to you, I believe it is, yeah?
Hello, Pete. How are you?
I am absolutely awesome. Thank you for asking. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. How are we getting on today?
Lovely. Just another day. My daughter with volleyball and just pretty laid back, which is good.
So give us a bit of background. Who are you? What do you do? And where are you from?
Well, it sounds so corny, but I was born in Hollywood. It's very cliche, but I grew up in Southern California, and I was really into sports growing up. And on the playground in elementary school, I wanted to compete with the boys and beat the boys, and I did that all the way through high school. And during high school, we can talk about that later. But anyways, I took that wanting to beat the boys into business, and then built a book of business with a company that was tied to Lloyd's of London. And as you know, very, very male dominated, or I should say largely male. And so it was just an interesting career that I had, working with men in the insurance brokerage industry, working with Lloyd's of London. And then later on, and again, very few women. So I had a different approach in terms of how I approached working in the industry. And in 1998, we sold our business to Aon, which was one of the second largest brokers. And a number of things happened. 9/11 happened, had a brush with that. And then I retired in 2004 to stay home with my 3 children, who are all older now. So that's kind of your 20,000 feet. There's a lot of details in there, but
That's a job done, right? So interview finished. We're all sorted, yeah.
We're all done.
That was quick. That's really quick. No, that's awesome, right? So you've really you've been there, you've done it, you sold the company, you've retired, you've the kids, the whole thing, and
Yeah.
author, and we're sort of
Yeah.
And what else can we tick off the list here? There's a lot going on, right?
Yeah, there's a ton going on. So when I retired, I got out of the business so I could focus on the kids. And then my 15-year-old is going to be out of high school in a couple of years, and I'm like, what the heck is mom going to do now, right? I was this fearless businesswoman, for 20 years, and then I became this fearless mother. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, empty nest. So I wrote the book, and my book is about my business journey, but it's also about my family heritage. And in 1992, my dad delved into our history. I'm 4th generation Californian, so we came over in the gold rush. And my great-great-grandfather was partners and relatives with a governor who stood next to Abraham Lincoln. And so there was all the stuff that my dad was uncovering that I uncovered. And after he passed, I promised I would write the book. And that's kind of where we are. And another really interesting thing is that my great-grandmother was a Churchill. And so same lineage, just the American Churchills over to Winston Churchill. So it was one of those things with my dad where he says, well, we've got this with Lincoln, and we've got this with whatever. I'm like, Dad, come on, whatever. I was too busy with work. And after he passed, he had a Lincoln file and a Churchill file, and I looked them both up. I'm like, okay, Dad, you were right. Geez, you were so excited, and there was a reason for you to be excited. So you know how we do that with our parents, about how they we kind of take them for granted at times, and then later on you realize, oh wow, they really did know a lot. Or in my case with my dad. So I went on with the heritage and my business. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's funny how priorities change through time. Sort of at one time that's not interesting, and then further down the line it is interesting. Your heritage, where you're from, and is that an identity thing? Is this you sort of searching for a version of yourself, or identity with yourself? Do you think?
That's a really good question, and it wasn't necessarily me searching, but my dad, and it's in the book. My dad's parents died by the time he was 12. Okay. So his father, who was huge in California water, basically just kind of worked himself to death, and at age 52, passed away of a heart attack. And then 6 years later, my dad was in the hospital with a spleen that was split, whatever you call it, whatever, open spleen. And my grandmother was driving to the hospital to go see him to bring him a poem, because she did that every day. She was a teacher. She got into a horrific car accident, and literally they brought her into the hospital, and 2 floors below him, she passed away. So I say that because it was definitely my dad's quest. He wanted to know who his parents were. He didn't know who they were. And when my grandparents died, all that heritage went away, like was lost. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's my, anyways. So all that heritage was lost. And so he had to kind of recreate it. It was, he was also an artist. So he had, he was recreating his history with his heritage, and then he was also painting at the same time. So you had these paintings that were, well, I have one kind of behind me over here, that reflect my heritage and his heritage as he discovered it. And many of them are abstract, and it was just how he got his feelings out about losing his parents and how he expressed it to the world. So a lot of good stuff.
Wow, that's very, very sweet. Tell me, I mean, do you think you're where you're supposed to be now?
Yes. I kind of believe I'm just one of those people that believes, I always believe I'm where I'm supposed to be. I with my kids, I always tell them, you may not like where you are right now, or you may think that you don't have the right teacher, but trust me, there's a reason. And, I even as much as when I was 15, so sadly, my sister committed suicide. And it took a lot of years to reconcile that and to really just kind of absorb that. And I don't believe that there was a reason for that, but I do think in the big scheme of things for me, it has made me who I am. So I'm really an empathic person. I like to give back. There are many reasons I do give back. She's one of them. So yeah, so I do believe that I believe I'm here. I'm supposed to be here. There's a lot more years left here. So
what, I mean, that's such a significant event really to happen at a fairly influential age for you, 15, and I mean, how did you reconcile that? What's your takeaways from that in the end?
oh gosh, well, what I did, that was what sports saved me. So I did everything. I did activities out of the house. I worked, I was good at school, and then I did sports, just really delved into that. And that pretty much saved me. Pete, it was a horrible thing because I was a sophomore, and you can imagine, you have a sibling who has committed suicide. And back then in 1976, it was a huge stigma. No one talked about it. So I'm a sophomore girl at high school walking around, and no one wants to talk about it. Like I felt like there was this, I'm like this ship in this wake behind me of people, like, we know something's going on, but we're afraid to talk to her. And it was really difficult. I will tell you that it did prepare me for the rest of my life in terms of, how I dealt with being in a man's world, how I dealt with just stuff with my own family. It was one of those things where I always felt like when I had a hardship, or someone would say they're really having a difficult time, and I would say, well, or for me, it would be a hardship. And I'm like, well, you know what? The worst thing has already happened to me. I lost a sister. I lost, to suicide. That was the worst thing. So what in business if I lose a huge sale? Or, so what about this other stuff? Nothing compares. So yeah.
Isn't it amazing really to have that sort of depth of an experience? It does put you on a different scale, right? Because
yes.
I mean, I know from losing people myself and going into the business experience, and people saying this is very serious, and you go, not really. It's like, yes, it's unfortunate, and yes, we want to progress in business, but this is not life-threatening, right? So
It is a perspective builder, having things like that happen in your life. It really it sets the parameters really for the rest of your life in terms of what's serious and what's not. And most things aren't, so.
Before we get into it, really, I mean, first of all, tell me, what does fire in the belly mean to you?
Oh, passion. It means, like, for me, being a woman in a male-dominated world for business, I was very passionate about winning because I was in sports, right? So that was kind of where my genesis for my passion of winning. And so when I got into, the world of business, my passion was to sell and to close deals, and I loved the whole process of negotiating and competing with the guys, and of closing the deal, and then just developing the relationships with the clients. And because it was kind of like the fire in my belly, I was really successful at it. And so I always have felt that when I'm passionate about something, I never think that I can't do it. Like there's just not, like, if I take something on, that means I've vetted it 150%. And when I take it on and I'm passionate, it's going to go, right? So it's that feeling of conviction, I would say. That's what it means to me.
Is it something you've always had? Is it something that's come and gone for you through your life? Or where are you at now in terms of your fire in your belly, your passion?
I think I've always had it. It's always been part and parcel of my personality. I would say that during raising my kids after I retired, it was dormant just because I didn't really have any outlet. I mean, room mom, how do I have a fire in my belly for being room mom for 6 years, even though I know my daughter appreciated it. But the fire in my belly now, after I've written this book, is just to really help people and empower men and women in business and kind of in life, because I've been through a lot over the years. And there's just, particularly with women, there's, a lot of need. I mean, I got out in 2004. It's almost like I went to sleep for, it's been like 15 to 20 years, whatever. And I wake up and the women are still being asked to take notes in meetings. Like, I mean, for me, back in my day in the 90s, I would have been doing the rock, paper, scissors. Like with the guys, like we're gonna see who is gonna write the notes, but it's gonna be a 50-50 deal on how this goes. And women were still being asked, and they're doing it. And I just have a passion for just helping men and women just value themselves, be true to themselves. And they're just a lot. I mean, I have certain, pearls of wisdom, I call them, that help people be successful. And one of them is be true to you. And it's where you just have to be authentic in business. You can't, you have to be who you are. And I mean, when I started in business, I was blonde, I was 26, I put glasses on. And because I thought I should be smart, like as a woman, I should look smart, right? And it just didn't work for me because I have an airhead side, and I would do silly things because I would always be focused on business, but then stuff over here, I would miss it. The hem would come off, I'd tape my hem, and the skirt would come unraveled and whatever. I was like Lucille Ball. I don't know, with I Love Lucy. And I call them my Lucy moments in the book. So I just learned that when I was natural and went with it, it was it worked better. I literally, so I could do these big deals, $1 million deals, and then I would be on a trip somewhere and something would happen, and my partners would be joking about me and something would happen, and I'd actually just share it with my clients, and they loved it. They were like, oh my gosh, she's real. We can relate to her, which means she'll be honest with us about if anything goes wrong, or she'll be real, and in business, it's kind of hard to find that, particularly insurance brokers. I mean, I'm not to put down lawyers, but we're right there with the bottom feeders with lawyers as insurance brokers. So being an authentic insurance broker was was actually, it worked. So I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, it's always interesting to see, you know, as you say, we feel our passion at different points in our lives, you know, in some places, it's not to say certain areas are right or wrong, or, you know, I mean, kids, you know, kids and families, it's just a different gear, it's a different place, right? So,
Yeah.
but it's interesting, you know, when you talk about that and you know, the building of the business and things like that. So, just a question that came to me there is, I mean, is it, did you tend to relate more to women clients, female clients, or male clients?
um, Male clients, just because I can talk the talk as far as business and whatever. And female client, they were threatened by me. And like, there was this one example about if you've ever seen The Devil Wears Prada with you know, Meryl Streep, and there was this one female CEO, and I had just finished business with the one other CEO that went out and he left, and she came in, and I was in a meeting with her, and she really didn't know me other than she knew that I had worked with him. First thing she says to me is, "You should be fired." And I'm like, she can't be talking to me. I mean, I've never heard that before, you know. And so talk about having to do a tap dance. I was like, okay, how am I going to get this woman on my side? I mean, yeah, it was tough. So anyways, we continued to have a relationship, and I was able to put together a product that was more proprietary for their medical group. And I gave her the credit. And so in fact, she was one of the CEOs that we brought to Lloyd's of London, because we would bring them every year to sit down with the underwriters. And so she was that influential in the business. And she was the one that told me I should be fired. I'm like, oh, good Lord. You know, I'm going to have to figure out, take the tricks out of my bag for that one. So, yeah, so several times I had women that were probably threatened of me. And I just had to use, you know, just kind of that velvet glove, the firm, feminine but firm. I would use just kind of an approach, and be soft but also firm with my boundaries, you know. And just, I was a salesperson, so I was going to be soft. I was not going to be really heavy-handed, but I was also going to let them know that there's a line that they shouldn't cross. So yeah, the men were a piece of cake. All I had to do is throw one of my stories on the table, and they're laughing. And they're just like, okay, their egos are disarmed. And I joke about how I'd walk into a room, and I'd put my ego into the basket right before I walk in. And then I would throw out some jokes. And my idea was that I wanted the men to put their egos in a basket so that all of us could do business afterwards. And it didn't matter that I was a woman, you know. It just, so that's how I worked with most of the men, you know. So I was non-threatening, you know.
It's always interesting, isn't it? I mean, it is. I mean, I must say, I find very similar that, you know, listen to different people, and, you know, but certain people mix better with different genders, you know, and it's like,
yeah.
And sometimes it was, you know, just different clients needed different people, different personalities. Like, so I usually say some needed to be stroked, you know, and egos to be pampered. Others, it was the reverse. If they felt like they were being handled, then that would, you know, so
they wouldn't like that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so it's interesting. You know, it's amazing. Take us back a wee bit there. What was, you know, what were you going to do? What was your original plan way back when?
Oh gosh. So I was playing sports. So, you know, you at 18, you figure out the college you're going to go to. And I decided to go to a college because it was pretty, right? So go figure, you know. And so then I'm like, well, what major? And I'm like, well, of course, physical education, because that's what I did. I did sports. And I realized in college that I would be bored, that my personality was so much more. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to solve problems. And sales was just really good for me because of my personality. So when I came out of college, I got a job as a salesperson, and it just kind of went from there. So I landed, you know, with a hospital doing sales, and then someone hired me into insurance brokerage. And I literally, by my bootstraps, had to, I would say walk the streets, but that's not really a good comment for a woman, but I literally had to canvas and build my book of business, like making 100 phone calls a day. And it was just like, it was, you know, the hard way. It was not nothing. It wasn't handed to me. And so then I really loved doing deals. I loved sales. I loved, and of course, I mean, the money comes with it. It's not the reason I did it, but it was a nice perk of closing the deals and stuff. So that took me into the insurance brokerage industry. And from there, I always feel that if you bring value in a job, success will find you. And that's kind of what happened. I just was, whatever I did, I would always put 150% in, and I would just bring that value. And so, and I tell my son, I'm like, hopefully you only have to have one resume in your life, right? So for me, it was the first one. And then after that, people will come find you because of what you are able to provide. And so anyways, yeah, so that was it. And then my son, in 2008 came to me and said, Mom, will you write down your story, please? This is a junior in high school. And I said, sure. So I wrote like 10 pages of really boring stuff about insurance. And then I had one last page, and it was lessons learned. And I thought to myself, if my son could just get these lessons learned, then he'll be successful in one way or another. So he went to UCLA, and I went up there, and he had it pinned on his board in college. And I didn't want to say anything, right? As mom, I'm not going to make a big deal, but I thought, okay, well, that's kind of nice. So he followed those, and then I mentored him, and then he ended up becoming a principal at age 27 in New York. So in a big company. So that has been kind of the genesis of my business into my son. And now he's doing that, which takes me to this book, which is helping people. So
for you writing the book, was it was the right time? You mentioned obviously about your father, and then the sort of retiring, and all this, and sort of bringing the kids up. So it just sounds like this has almost been a bit of a chance to change gear, but also a chance to put it into writing. Is that a fair
yes
statement?
Yeah, it was really I needed to figure out what my next chapter was going to be, so to speak. And so, yeah, it was. And I just feel that, and like, I'm in a phase where I would like to help people. So it's, so the book does that. It tells my story in a way that is, you understand it. You can understand the concepts and apply them to yourself. So yes, this definitely, it's been an interesting ride the last few years. So
talk to us about writing books. Is this something that's come naturally? Is this something you've enjoyed? How's it for you?
It hasn't come naturally, the actual writing part per se, but the ideas and the connections and the stuff with all this heritage, and then my business and how there's such a creativity there. And I always thought that my dad was the artist. And I realized that being a writer and an author, you are an artist. I mean, you're bringing together a concept, or it's just been kind of who I am, because I solved problems in business. That was what you do in terms of being successful in sales and whatnot, because you solve problems between an employer and insurance company or whatever. And so I took that same premise into writing my book. And it was just connecting things and strategy and whatnot. So it's kind of fun.
And you were saying those sort of lessons for us. Give us a bit of a teaser in terms of what the intention to put across in the book, and those, that sort of the one page or that set of rules for people.
Yes. I already talked to you about the be true to you. There's one big one called I Can, and I'm a firm believer in you have to believe in yourself and believe in what you're doing for it to happen. And I mean, I come from a long line of pioneer entrepreneurs when they come over for the gold rush, and they bring water and this and that. So we have like kind of that I can mentality, and we don't see any other way. It's just, that's how it is. So what I try to convey is, you can make things happen in your life. You can make things happen. And I give examples about that. And my dad kind of taught me that, because painting, he would do a painting, and then 20 years later we would see it, and we're like in Venice, and saw this painting he did. And I go, Dad, we're on this boat. We got up early. I go, Dad, you painted that. And he goes, yeah. Kind of like, okay. And I said, but Dad, we have that at home. He goes, yeah. And I realized looking back on it, that manifestation, that putting something down, writing it, that painting it. In fact, I say that, in the movie Field of Dreams, where he says, if you build it, they will come. And so with my dad, it was kind of like, if you paint it, it will happen. And I just had that innately in me through, I think sports and then into business. And like I said, it's that passion, it's that fire in the belly. When you have that conviction and you put that out there, you make things happen. So I can be true to you. What else? I have one of the books. Let's see. Oh, basic ones that like treat people the way you want to be treated. When you don't know the answer, say so. Don't just, don't BS, because people in business don't like it when you BS. And if you BS a client, they're not going to trust you again if they find out. And one of them is that when you make a mistake, this is a big one. When you make a mistake, come up with a solution and own up to it. And so the one example I used is that I had pitched a huge proposal to a huge medical group, and I sold them on changing carriers. It was a big deal at the time. And it went to the board, CEO took it to the board, they signed off on it. 3 days later, I'm going through the proposal and whatever. And I realized that I misinterpreted the rate. Okay. We're talking, this was a 30% differential in proposal. So I was like, what the, I thought my career was flashing before my eyes. I'm like, what am I going to do? Right. So I actually did what I would normally do in my personal life, and that is own up to it. And I called a meeting with him, and I went and I sat in his office, and I said, I have bad news, and then I have good news. I said, the bad news is that I misinterpreted the rate, blah, blah, blah. The good news is I have a solution, blah, blah, blah. And again, career flashing before the eyes, right? And he says to me, after like 15 seconds, he's just sitting there in this chair in this big office, and he says, okay, Teresa, because you handled it, everyone makes mistakes, but because you handled it the way you handled it, you will keep our business. He ended up being the key person in the industry that allowed me to sell my business. So had I tried to BS him, or had I tried to cover it up, I wouldn't be where I am, clearly. So
that those sort of sliding doors moments, that actually this could go one or two ways, right? So
yeah, very easily, very quickly. So that's why I try to share that, Pete, because just be honest. That's the best thing to do. And the worst thing that could happen, and remember, you go back to what's the worst thing. Let's say I lost a sister. Nothing's going to compare to that. I lose the account. Okay.
Where does that work ethic come from for you?
My dad was a carpet salesman, and he had a lot of integrity, and he worked very hard. We lived in a town that had a lot of money, but we were middle class, and so we came from humble means. And when we were little, my dad told me a story about when he lost his job. He literally washed dishes in this highfalutin town. He washed dishes to make sure to keep a roof over our head. So there's that I innately had. And also, it's the heritage. I mean, when you come to California in the gold rush and after that, you're hard workers. So, you come across the plane. My great-great-grandmother came across with my great-great-grandfather. And as a woman, you're not just taking care of the kids. Let me just say, you were jumping on the horses, fighting the Indians if needed. You were nurturing the kids. You were making dinner. So there was big work ethic. When you come and you settle a state, so I think it's definitely a DNA. Like I have to dig into something where I can just work hard at it and make it happen, so.
And what was your why? I mean, what was your why then, and what's your why now?
When you say then, what's then?
Well, I suppose, I mean, it almost feels like there's different chapters, if you like. You talk about the chapter of growing, up to, sort of 15, 18, as you say, when you come into that, then going through your career, then business and selling the business, and then mother and now. So I don't know. I mean, I've sort of given you 5 chapters. I've inflicted upon you.
The first 4, I would say for me, before I stayed home with my kids, is that I really just I just like to win. I was the girl on the playground that wanted to be picked. And if I could be picked first, I thought that was a win, right? So that felt good. Like, okay, I could control. What it was is that I could control, like I could really work hard, and so winning was big to me. And again, it wasn't about the money later. It was just the winning part. And that drove me. And I also know that when I would work hard, and if I won, that I would be able to kind of have control of what I wanted to do. And as a teenager, and losing a sister to suicide, you don't feel a lot of control. And so I think that really just set me as I went forward to what can I, what is within my control, winning, whatnot, how I set up things. And then the why now really is just to give back, because, I've almost raised the 3 kids, been the business, kind of been there and done a lot of things, and would like to help people, because first of all, raising kids, there's no manual, right? There's just like no manual. And really in business, for a woman in business, there was no manual. So, I just feel like that's just a thing that an area that I can fill and that I can help. So that's definitely the why is giving back now.
It's interesting, as you say. I mean, you're going to carry values, and a particular saying, and I always find quite poignant, is, your voids are your values, or voids quite often are your values, not intentionally. But I suppose losing your sister like that, and then sort of, as you defined it there, is almost the want to win. It's the connection between maybe being seen or pleasing or connecting or doing whatever, or control, as you said. So that's quite interesting. Whether it's healthy or not, I don't know. But what's your thought?
Who knows? Well, for me, at least starting, during that, it was survival. So for the first few years, it was just survival. I just really needed to get through. I needed to put that behind me, and I needed to have an identity, and competing for me gave me that identity. And then it just kind of became what I knew. And I'm one of those soft competitors. Yes, I like to compete, but I also have a kind heart, will help people. I will cheer anyone on. I will, writing the book, trying to help people here, just do this, like with my son, back page, do this, and this will help you, kind of thing. So I'm not one of those hardcore competitors from the standpoint of at the expense of others, so.
If you didn't do what you did, what would you be doing?
I don't know. You know what? I actually would love, if I had a voice, to be a singer and to have, be in music. I have daydreamed about that before, because I do like speaking in front of audiences, and I like that, that just has come naturally to me. And I'm so upset that I didn't have a voice. I'm like, okay. And I really, trust me, I don't have a voice.
I was going to say, I mean, that leads nicely into, I mean, what do you love in life? I mean, what's the things that really stand out for you and make life super special?
For me, it really truly has been my children. They have been my, so I don't know. Back in 2001, I woke up in the morning of 9/11, and my dad called me and said, you need to turn the TV. And I turned it on, and my 8-year-old daughter was next to me. And I saw the tower go down, and then I saw the second tower start, the plane go in, and then I just started sobbing. And my daughter said, Mommy, why are you crying? And I said, well, because 2 days from now, I was supposed to be on the 98th floor of the second tower. And she says, Mommy, If you were in that tower, I'd fly a plane across the country and I would come and get you. Now, that's one of those moments when you think, what are you doing? These kids need you, right? I was running, traveling. I was, the executive woman, with all the success and whatnot. And then that just stopped me dead in my tracks. And at that point, I realized that I was going to retire. And so for 3 years, I no one knew. I socked away money. I just took my salary and I put it as much aside. And I knew that by the time my contract was up in 2004, I was going to retire and be with my kids, because I felt that the best gift that I could give them was my time. And, my dad lost his parents when he was 12. So I just wanted to not have that part of our history repeat itself. And so I threw a lot, I've just been the mom, since then. I just really, now I've become an author and all that. But for so many years, that has been my purpose. So.
What's a really proud moment for you, or moments?
What are my proud moments?
Yeah.
My proud moments. You know what? I would say that there's a few different kinds of proud moments. One of them would be with certain milestones with your children. When my daughter, her passion was figure skating, and she ended up going to the world championships. And so I actually write that story because it was a week after we did my dad's kind of a service. And so something happens in there, at the world championships that was really special, as far as like feeling my dad's spirit and whatnot. But watching her skate and watching her, on the ice at that moment, since she was 4, right, that she had her world stage, which is what she wanted, right? So there's nothing better than to see your kids realize their dreams. And so that was a proud moment. Another moment, you're gonna laugh. Do you like hockey? I don't know if you do. Hockey's not as big.
I don't watch a lot because we don't tend to get a lot over here, to be honest. But
but I'll tell you a story. So the other really just teary moment with my children, my 2 older ones, was in 2012. The Kings were playing in the finals, the Stanley Cup finals, against, I can't remember who it was. Anyways, it was a huge win after the Kings were a 45-year franchise that had never won the Stanley Cup. I have a picture of my kids and I, and it was just like one of those moments of just, an epiphany, whatever. It was so fun because we could experience it together. And so I've had a lot of really great things happen. Certainly a proud moment was when I was able to sell my company as a woman, and able to retire, and retire to be with my kids. So yeah, I've had a lot of great things, even though, the thing, when I was a teenager with my sister, but kind of feel like she's been a little guardian angel there with all of the wonderful things that have happened as well.
Do you think you'll ever understand that? Do you think you'll ever get over it?
I have, I have gotten over it. There's no sting when I think of it. I wrote about it in the book, and, you go through phases, and this has been, this is almost 45 years ago. So, I have come to terms and peace with it, so it doesn't, I don't think it doesn't affect me emotionally as it used to, where you couldn't, like in some of those cases, in a case like that, you just can't think about it, right? You just like, I'm not gonna go there. But no, I think about her, and I think about her, and I smile, and I just know that she's with me.
Can I ask what age she was when she passed on?
Hmm?
What age was she when she passed on?
She was 21.
21. Did you find yourself be more aware when your own kids sort of reached that, or?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, I always I'm like a mama bear watching things. Yeah, I don't let anything get by me. I ask questions. Yeah, I've been there, so don't want to do that again. And we'll make, do everything within my control. And you know what? I'm also just able to be there to talk to other people as well. So, when they're going through it, I was just talking to a mom the other night, and she's had some things going on, and I was just able to share with her, you're not alone,
Mm.
you're not alone. And this stuff happens, and there's hope. There's hope. So,
Just out of curiosity, I mean, do you think that's almost something that helps to magnify the empath in you? Do you think that's one of the reasons?
yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that probably part of that is just, helps to heal that part that was so hurt and so upset when I was growing up. So it I'm open to sharing more of it. And particularly in the chapter where I wrote it, a lot of people had come to me and said, thank you for sharing, because a lot of people that don't do that. And I just really felt like it's just time, time to see how it can maybe open up other people's eyes. It can help them to think in terms of, how they can help their, whoever it is, friend, family member. So yeah, definitely brings the empath out.
Can I ask, I mean, where do you sit in terms of sort of religion or spirituality? I mean, where's your stance?
I believe in God, and I believe I'm a very spiritual person. I mean, I definitely feel, when my dad passed, I feel like I feel that he's here with me. I believe, I don't know if you know the term synchronicity. Synchronicity. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, tell us about synchronicity then.
Oh gosh, synchronicity. For me, the role that it has had in my life is I'm very aware of things that go on around me, or I try to be. If I'm in a good place and I'm positive, then I keep an eye on what's around me. If I'm in a negative place or I have negative whatever, then I don't sense anything. But stuff will happen around me, and I'll like, oh, this is a perfect example. So I've really been on this journey with this book. It's kind of like synchronicity. Things will happen, and I know I'm on the right path. And if things don't happen, I also know I'm not on the right path. So it's kind of like it's either there or it's not. And so the book, for about 6 months, it was just kind of like, I don't know, just I wasn't feeling it. And I had started with a cover on my heritage, and my book designer said, you need to be on the front. You need to be on the front. I'm like, I don't want to be on the front. I don't want my face on the front of a book. I'm doing the heritage thing. It's the gold rush. It's whatever, Monopoly. So for 6 months, that goes out there, and all of a sudden I realize, it just occurs to me in like April. I think I need to change the cover. I think I need to go on. I thought it was about my heritage, but the story is really about me. And so I did that. And as soon as I did that, like, several things happened, and I've blogged about it, but it won an international book award. It became a bestseller. It was just like taking off, and I'm like, wow, okay. So when you feel like you're in a rut, when you have a goal and you have your eyes set on getting something done, if nothing's happening, I realized you need to try and figure that out. It's like, why is it not happening? Do you need to change your route? And so then, I don't know if you know who Wayne Dyer is.
I do indeed, yeah. Yeah, The Wish Fulfilled, if I remember rightly.
Uh-huh.
One of the books here, yeah.
So he, as you know, very big self-help author, wrote probably 100 million books in his lifetime. So so my dad wrote on a calendar. Remember, this is the visualization thing. So we wrote on his calendar, Dr. Wayne Dyer, there's a spiritual solution to every problem. 4 months later, we were on a plane coming back from Hawaii with Wayne Dyer. And unbeknownst to me, he was in first class and I had one first class ticket. And it was me, my son, my nephew, and my dad. And I decided I was going to send my 8-year-old daughter up there because, you know, she could talk to anyone and he'd be entertained, whoever would be entertained in first class. So we get off the plane in LAX and she comes running up to me. She says, Mommy, I have this book. This man signed this book for me. And I turn around and it's Wayne Dyer. I'm like, really? Okay. So he signs the book to the nicest girl I've ever talked to on my way home from Maui. And then 13 years later, she goes to the World Championships and her sport is synchronized skating. And synchronicity is the cornerstone of his teaching. So if you read the book and you read the back part of it, I show you all the connections that show it's just kind of crazy, you know. So synchronicity is a main theme in the book. And it was a few weeks ago, I was coming home and I had just looked at one of his tapes and it said, I didn't know if you're familiar, he had an encounter with a butterfly for about an hour that was on his finger and he felt like it was just a spiritual thing. So after I looked at that, I went to go get my daughter and come back and literally I'm pulling in the garage and this monarch butterfly just zooms past my window. Okay. And this is like unusual. I'm like halfway, that thing had to like maneuver because I was almost into the garage. And I thought, when those things happen, I always think why. And so I went in and I had gotten this email from a book award company and they were confirming that I had entered the book for certain things. So I thought, I'm thinking to myself, did I miss a category? So I go in, because I know there's some reason. So I go in and I look and I go, art. Like my dad's art is all over the book. Like, how can I miss that, right? So I sign it up for art, I send it off and I'm on my way. And the next day, another monarch butterfly is coming off of my window in my car, like, and it flies so it's beautiful. I could see it and he flies away. So a couple days later, I'm going on my walk and I have like a playlist I've done for my book. I'm thinking to myself, Lord, if I'm on the right path with my book, will you please give me a sign? So I'm listening to my music and I'm walking out and I walk out, whatever. About a block down the street, I see these two bugs and they're literally going, they're going like this. And I walk up and they're two monarch butterflies, all right, in sync. Okay. So in Wayne Dyer's thing with the butterfly, he's like his Hay House president is saying, Wayne, get the picture when he's got his butterfly. So all I could hear in my head was, Teresa, get the picture. So it becomes a Lucy moment because these butterflies are dive bombing me as I'm trying to get the picture and they're all around me and I'm screaming and shrieking and I get the picture. And you can imagine what people thought as they're driving by. But so I get the picture and I have it. It's on my blog, but you can see the two butterflies, beautiful monarch butterflies up here. You see nothing else, palm trees, the street, and you see an arrow, a white arrow going in the direction that I'm going. For me, that's like, okay, I'm on the right path, right? It is what it is. It's funny because the people that know me, that's how I lead my life. I'm a positive, kind person. A big key is you need to give gratitude. You need to be thankful. And when you do all those things and you want to have a goal happen, just take a look around you and see what's going on to tell you if you're on the right path. And so, yeah, so there's the book. The book goes, synchronicity ends up being the end of it. And toward the end, I'm like, I'm wondering if my dad knew this, right? I'm wondering if my dad so I go, I'm going to go back through, he has these calendars that he's decorated in the beginning of all of them. I'm going to go back through these and I'm looking. So I go back, guess what? First calendar, chapter number 1, up in the left corner, synchronicity, all capital letters. So I'm like, okay, it's about synchronicity. So what is your experience with synchronicity? What do you?
There's so many things, I suppose, and even for myself, I sort of got to sort of, it was about 4 years ago when I got to a point in my life of absolute non-synchronicity in so many ways that just all the different parts. But a couple of things, dreams coming to me and realizations, visualizations, realizations in terms of where I am, where I'm supposed to be. But probably the most weird thing is the show, because the fire in the belly came to me. I literally was out in a walk, and it was like sort of more or less seeking an answer. It's kind of going, I was curious about other people's passions, and it was, I mean, it's sort of the certain circumstances happened at that time, and it was just kind of going, okay, this is a message, this is something else, and yeah, no, so the reoccurring things, and now I suppose I've trusted my intuition. I think that's one thing I'm becoming more and more aware of, the synchronicity. And now I sit back and I enjoy it, whereas before it was like, oh my God, you won't believe what happened, and much more tension in my life. Whereas now it's like, yeah, of course it's supposed to be, if I win something, yeah, well, I was supposed to. So that's it's not a surprise. I'm grateful, but it's no big deal, right? So no, it's beautiful.
My dad used to always say, like, when I would come to him, and it was like the cat bringing the mouse to the door. I'm like, Dad, I sold the company. Of course. I'm like, Dad, I broke the glass ceiling and Lloyd's of London, blah, blah, blah. Of course you did. Of course. He was just, that's the way he lived his life. It was either he was praying for me or praying for his family or whatever. He just always knew that things good could happen. So it's so funny. I'll tell you another little story. I finally just yesterday closed on selling his condo, and he passed away 6 years ago. And it's a gem of a place. It has this backyard that has this kind of a lake and waterfalls, and there are ducks, and it's just beautiful. It's a park. And so I always felt this, when I bought it for him, I was like, this is such a special place. It's like a little sanctuary. And for him, he would lay on the bed and he would listen to the waterfalls, and he would say, this is heaven on earth, And so I never could sell it before now, because it was like opening that door of, that was the last place I saw him, And so the first time, so it went on the market the first time, and a couple of things happened. And anyways, it wasn't the right scenario. I just knew it wasn't the right scenario, but I knew that I had to carry through because I committed to that. And lo and behold, it falls through escrow. Like, okay, you're right, that wasn't the right scenario. So the second time it goes on, the day before it goes on, I get this picture of, it's this fabulous duck that is like, the wings are like this. I caught it like it was taking off, and it was in my dad's backyard. I've never seen that in his place. So I'm like, okay, this is it. This is going to be a good one, right? So this is the time to sell it. And I wanted, my goal, Pete, was I wanted someone to come in there and say, wow, I got to have this. This is just unbelievable. This is just special, whatever. So that they're going to pay for it. The way you do it is you pay for it when you have a special place. So that happened. 2 bids came in, and one came in, and it was so much higher. And I knew that it was the right thing. And in fact, it closed yesterday, and it was like, okay, I could part with it because I felt that it was respected. So the duck was, for me, synchronicity. It's like the duck with the flapping wings is telling you, this is good. Like, okay, it's time to fly, Teresa, go. You're going to get rid of the condo, just go. So.
Awesome. I mean, well, congratulations, first of all, on getting it all sorted, because it's another chapter, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely place to be. I'm very I'm taken by your language, and you're very natural, as you say, very empathetic, or empathic. I never, but actually, in how much you talk about manifestation, visualization, synchronicity. This is obviously something that's heavily embedded in your life. That whole, gratitude, everything, right? So it's this isn't. Has it always been, do you think? Has it always been,
well, you know what? I started in sports. I think one of the reasons I was successful is I always visualized before I went into a competition. So I would visualize where that ball is going to go. I would visualize us. With our tennis rackets up or whatever. We won the championship. So and and thing that would go that way. And so it was, and I think it was my dad's paintings and stuff over the years that just taught me kind of that manifestation, visualize it and it will happen kind of thing. And then in business, it was working that way, because I would literally, I had the account of my career that probably was 50% of my book of business, was a company that was headquartered in Alabama. And so I had to fly. First of all, a woman in the South. I'm just going to tell you right now, that was not the easiest thing as a woman in the South. I got called honey a couple times. I'm like, okay. You know what? I'll get you coffee if you give me your account. Okay, we're good with that. So I'm flying on the plane and I am thinking in my mind, watching them sign the instrument, the letter that gives me the business. I am thinking about them sitting there saying, we're going with her because she will help us the most. I'm thinking about me walking out with the broker of record letter. And I thought that all the way to Alabama, and we got it. So that's just been a big part. I started with sports and then I carried that into business, and it's just how I do things. I just think that where your mind directs, stuff will follow, right? So that's why I try and not think negative. I try to get rid of negative thoughts, because it's not productive at all. And I really have to work on that. And my dad too, in his calendars, he would pray about, please, Lord, help me get rid of this negativity. And because when you're in a positive place and you have gratitude and you can figure out visually where you want to go and whatnot, stuff happens. So, by the way, my dad, he used to he illustrated calendars. And so I've got from 1992 to 2004 or 7, Ansel Adams calendars with all of his painting and his markers in it and whatever. And he would have sayings in there, just about like the one with synchronicity, it would be about believe, trust God like a child, so it was just really cool, just a neat legacy. And so somehow that got through to me early on. I don't know. I didn't study anything back then. It was just how it happened. But you know what? I got to think, Pete. I mean, I kind of thought about it. If you're a pioneer, you like visualize where it is you want to go. You're like, I'm gonna conquer this, and this is what I like to do when I get there. Or this is what, not sure what I'm gonna find, but this is the end result, right? So think from the end, right? And then your mind goes, or stuff goes there. And so I think it goes back to DNA, because you had to do that. I don't know how you couldn't with these. My grandfather negotiated an international aqueduct with Mexico to go into LA against William Mulholland. Come on, like, you've got to have these big things where you think at the end, you think from the end. So it's the only way I can explain it.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of something that's handed down or whatever. It's, but listen, it's an absolute, it's a beautiful trait to have, But are you, what a two-part question maybe is, do you know what you're capable of, and are you reaching your potential?
Those are really good questions, and I don't even I really don't. I operate within certain confines, just because I don't need to, I don't need to have more weight, I don't know what I'm capable of, to be honest with you, in the bigger picture. It's just in my small little world. I just, it's like you said, stuff will happen, and I don't even make a big deal out of it anymore. I'm just like my dad, of course. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm gonna go. Oh, gonna make a right turn, on that one. So I just kind of like, it's like in my own little world. Yeah. But like I said, Pete, earlier, when I'm passionate about something and I've vetted it 150%, you know what? Don't go against me. My dad used to say that. My dad used to say, oh my gosh, Theresa, I always want to be on your side. I never want to be on the other side of the table from you, or I never want to have you be upset with me or whatever. And I think that comes back from being passionate, about when I am passionate about something, I take it seriously.
Always, I try to convey that in my own book, and along the lines of, more or less, it's sort of the universe will bend for you. When you create such force and visualization and belief, that things will happen. They just happen. They attract to you. They bend for you. The sort of unexpected becomes expected.
It's the law of attraction, which, obviously there's that whole book. And one of the things that I have, it's actually on my website, is when you recognize that your business success is not all about you, the world will fall in sync at your feet. And I use in sync a lot because synchronicity, synchronized skating, I kind of tie all that together. But the thing there is that, it's how you treat people on the way. It's kindness. It's the gratitude. It's not all about you. And in life, when you make it not all about you, then, and you are thankful for it, and you want to go in a certain direction, which it's not like I want to move the mountain. It's, I want to do something that is consistent with my highest self. Like, I'm not going to do something that, is just ridiculous, but something that, could work, in terms of what I want to do, or another book or whatever, then that's doable. Definitely the universe. I mean, there are so many examples of that out there. I remember Deepak Chopra said that synchronicity is God's way of like giving you anonymous messages. It's kind of like a wink that you're going in the right direction or something. That's definitely how I have felt. It's like a nod.
Have you been here before, do you think?
In what way? Like
previous lives, other dimensions?
I've never thought about that, Pete, but what about you?
I believe I have. I don't know if that makes sense.
Is it something feels familiar?
There's definitely a feeling there. There's definitely, and it's interesting because recently we have a book club that we read it early every morning, and reading Conversation with God and Neil Donald Walsh. Fascinating, but in there they pose the theory, or in the conversation they talk about, the question is, have we been here before? And it's like, eventually God is sort of coaxed into giving an answer, and it's saying, you've only done this 647 times before.
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
I don't know, it was that moment of going, maybe not just having been here before, maybe I've been here a lot of times before, right? And this is because it is a fascinating thing. Maybe you come back as a man, maybe you come back as a warrior, maybe you come back as a criminal, maybe you come back, do you know what I mean? It's all experience. That is, to be human is to experience, right? Is to connect.
Well, they've said, the saying that we're like a spiritual being having a physical experience.
Yeah.
So, how we think inside, that's the spirit. And there's so that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, no, and it is fascinating, right? It's who knows? What's your earliest memory, out of interest? Your earliest conscious memory?
My earliest conscious memory. Just my earliest memory is I had relatives in South Dakota. We were, when I don't even know what age it was, but I remember going back there and spending some time with them. They live on a farm. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty benign. What about you?
A couple, actually. There was one, we used to live in Saudi Arabia, and for some reason the health and safety probably wasn't great, but I was lying on the bottom of the pool looking up, which is fascinating, a fascinating view anyway, but this was in the middle of a thunderstorm. So literally, I mean, it's in the sort of the top of the pool was rippled, and I think it's because it was so visual. I think it was only like 4 or 5 or something. It's like bizarre. I don't know that I should have been in the bottom of the pool at that time, but yeah, I mean, one, looking up the in water, but then when a thunderstorm and you see lightning strike across the sky, through the water, it's just just something that's just imprinted in my memory, whether it's my earliest memory or it's certainly a very significant memory.
That'd be a really interesting picture. Yeah.
So it's just, I love that change in perspective, but No, I mean I've done some mixture of reclamation exercise and all that, and my earliest subconscious memory, or a significant memory was just before I was born. And
What?
hmm.
What was it? Like,
So because I was tracking back, so I would quite often do this. So a lot of the emotions would track them back to where they've actually started. So one was embarrassment, and actually it was sort of just before being born, and I got stuck. I don't know. Unfortunately, my mother's passed away, so I can't say whether this is correct or not. I have no idea. And but my memory just it came flooding back in. Memory was being born, coming down the birthing channel and getting stuck,
oh
uh,
my gosh.
being quite and I hate being held down. Sounds bizarre,
Hmm.
but anyway, getting stuck, and then eventually after a bit of pushing and prodding, I was released. But actually the amount of attention, because I could feel the tension in the room rising, but it was all sort of all the attention was focused upon me, which I found very embarrassing.
Huh.
And so the root of embarrassment for me was that event.
Wow.
Now, did it happen? Did it not happen? I have no idea. All I can tell you is through this exercise, and now it's like I don't know. I'm just telling what's coming into my mind, and that's what's coming into my mind. So
Well,
uh,
Pete, you know that that particular experience was also extremely traumatic.
hmm,
So, and I'll tell you because my son, we had that when he was born. He went like halfway down the canal, and they literally had to push him back up, and then it was so it was like then it was a C-section. So it was very traumatic. So what you had happen was something that
hmm.
was traumatic.
Yeah, that's bizarre. But I'm sort of amazing because I had the opportunity to interview Dr. John D. Martini, and and he talks about us having 4,000 plus emotions, right? And but every one of those 4,000 emotions carries a bit of a story, and sometimes multiple stories, which I find fascinating. Yeah,
Very interesting. That's such a good point. That's
yeah,
a lot of stories.
huge, right? You track happiness, you track embarrassment, you track shame, you track fear, you track enlightenment, you track love, connection. Every one of them you can go back, and it's I don't know why I find this absolutely mind-blowing, and
That is.
especially when in that sort of flow state, and you talk about synchronicity. Well, flow is a big thing for me, when we get the hell out of our own way. And this is why we do longer podcasts, because I let people get into flow. So,
Oh,
so
okay.
typically the first 20 minutes, half hour is conscious. People are telling you exactly what they've told other people before, and there's nothing new, and they expect it all. Then we typically, in general, you'll see people actually sit back in the chair and go, and that's the point we realize we've moved into mid-consciousness, and that's when they're sort of relaxed. They know they're not going to get caught out here. It's nothing, it's not a threatening environment. We're all
Right.
warm
Right.
and cozy here. And then typically around the sort of 55 to hour 10 mark, we typically drop into sort of subconscious, and that's when we think and talk at the same speed. So
Oh, so it just comes out.
it just
Just
comes
like,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, God, I just thought of something crazy. Well, of course you did, because
No
that's
guard, no anything, no
yeah,
filter, just yeah.
yeah, it's just
Which is
there. It's like, God,
good.
it's weird thought or that, or God, I haven't thought about that before. So this is what we sort of found through the process, bizarrely. So, and this is why we get a huge amount of feedback from people going, I don't know what you did in my show, but it's sort of really sort of stirred up the dirt of it for people, and sort of memories
Yeah.
they hadn't thought about in a long time. So
Yeah. It
yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah. And I just think when we are put into flow state, our genius genuinely comes out to play. And I loved it when you talked about, with the insurance business, I'm just being yourself. And it's like
Yeah.
if you're not trying to be something else and expending energy, holding yourself in an artificial place, then you can just be. And people are attracted to that energy. And then
Yes.
it gives you freedom to go further and farther.
It's your natural place in the universe when that occurs.
Mm,
When
mm,
you're in your natural state with the universe, people, things are attracted to you
mm.
because it is a flow thing. It is a, oh, this feels comfortable, whatever. When you're trying to be something you're not. It's like one of those magnets, like they don't, it's like they try but they can't come together kind of thing. It's I don't think that that's a natural way for the universe to be. I think it's more difficult to have genuine connections.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I think it's unfortunately I think it's quite rare to people because it's sort of like a gap theory, and it's the gap between who you, well, I mean there's multiple gaps, but who you are and who you truly are. You know, it's like who you're portraying today. Then we have different versions, who we think we are, who we want other people to see us as, who we actually are, and then who we truly are. You know, and I find that, and I think until you actually drop the baggage, for you, and I personally, I think it's almost the origin of a lot of midlife crisis, you know, where people have the
Yeah.
energy and the momentum to carry it around and whatever until they get to the point they're tired and they've kids and life and they've
Yeah.
got enough money in their bank to go, I want to make decisions for me. And then they just drop baggage left, right, and center. And at that point, success comes in absolute, you know, waves.
Mm-hmm.
That's something.
My dad, he has one calendar, and he said, and it always stands out to me. I have it in one of the blogs on there, but you have, in big orange letters, you have to recognize who you are. Because he said, for me, he said, Teresa, all these calendars, because he had like 60 prayer pads, and he would write down prayers, and then they'd be answered, and he'd write and read that they were answered, whatever. So and we have that, but he also has the calendars, and he kind of taught through his calendars. And he said to me, he goes, Teresa, if you know, all of my stuff is in my calendars. Everything you want to know about how I've done all this is in my calendars. If you read all these, you will be able to do what I did as far as, you know, having positive things happen in your life and wanting those things. And he's right. So I mean, I have them. I've shared some of them. But it's generally all the stuff about being positive, kindness, gratitude, and just yeah, just a genuine person. Yeah. I laugh though, because I say he taught me how to make genuine connections, because he would talk to anyone and their brother, and we'd be on an elevator and make best friends by the time we went to the 10th floor. And I said, you know, I'm the quintessential Rose on Titanic. You know, I can be in first class talking about a deal, closing a deal, whatever. And then I have actually more fun, and I can be in steerage, dancing on the tables and talking with people and whatever. And it's all the same to me. And that's what he taught me. It's like, we're all people. It doesn't really matter what we make, doesn't matter what we do. You know, we are just, you know, we're people. And that was a gift. Kind of goes back to being real.
Yeah, it's beautiful, right? It's a beautiful place to be. Have you ever sort of sought to connect with your dad through mediums or spiritually, or?
I haven't through, I have not done that through a medium. I just feel like he's always with me. And there were so many things the year after he passed that were just incredible that happened, that I've written about towards the end. And I know, you know, I know that all these little synchronicity things, you know, my dad has stuff to do with it. You know, I just know, like, you know, it's like God and my dad are laughing, like, is she going to get it this time, or is she not going to get it? You know? So I feel, you know, like the duck that had the wings right before the places, that clearly was like representing my dad saying, okay, it's time for you to move on, girl. Like, we're done here. You know, you're going to get the price you want. It's going to be respected. So I always just feel like he's with me that way. I don't know if he was one of those monarch butterflies, though. I was trying to figure that one out. I didn't know who the two butterflies. I didn't go there as far as when I wrote about it, but I'm like, who were the two monarch butterflies? I don't know.
It's fascinating, you know. You know, a lot of people sort of look for that sort of symbolism, which is great, and sort of almost moving on. And the theory I've always run with the fire in the belly, you know, because I sort of say to some people, I used to ask a lot more than I do now, but you know, it's like, do you think everyone, are you born with it? Is something that comes later in life? And I don't know, my belief is that as soon as you're born, you have a fire in your belly.
Yes.
Whether you're in your darkest hour or you're in your highest peak of a moment, it's there. It's either a roaring fire or a tiniest flame away in the distance, but it's never not there. And it's a bit like the acres of diamonds, they're all within,
Hmm.
and it's almost with that connection, as you say, with your father, it's always there, whether you choose to actually acknowledge or take time, or then you say,
Right.
oh, gosh, that butterfly has reminded me of, to remind or remember, and put the
Yeah.
memories back together, right?
Yeah, for sure. When you talk about like, was it there in the beginning or not? My dad always used to say that I came out of the womb. He goes, Teresa, you came out of the womb with a tennis racket. Like I was always competitive. I was all, I'm like, well, he might have been right. I could see, it was from the beginning. Like maybe in kindergarten, I was running against the boys. I don't know. So, but yeah, kind of the fun thing lately when I closed the condo yesterday in the last couple of weeks is I had all of his paintings, his abstracts, and some of those things that weren't abstracts because it's 50 years of stuff were in his garage. And so I moved it, and when I got all the stuff off of the shelves, literally the garage was full of, I've never seen this stuff. It was like a treasure trove of stuff, and he wrote on the back, and he just so fun. So yeah, he's with me. I mean, he's like, he's probably laughing up there like, oh yeah, I did that one 40 years ago. I was hoping you'd see it now, kind of thing. So
Love it. Tell me, what's a bit of a guilty pleasure for you?
hmm, I need to have more guilty pleasures, honestly. I don't even know how to answer that. I enjoy going out and having a margarita with my girlfriends.
I'll tell you, the most popular answer is generally chocolate or wine. So
Oh,
margaritas are right
both,
there.
both. Margarita though, I'm just going out with the girlfriends and having margarita is another one. So without salt on the rim, and then I'm happy. That is basically a guilty pleasure.
That's good. And leisure and pleasure for you, that is that going out for girls,
A
girls.
leisure, a leisure pleasure. Yeah, that's right. And we're all the women that I go out with, we all have kids that are probably, like a couple years from going to college. So it's just a different phase of our life.
Yeah, no, I love it. So tell us, where can people reach out to you, follow you, track you, stalk you down?
Stalk me. I am on theresaallison.com. So it's ThereseAllison.com. So an E at the end of Teresa, Pete, for empowerment.
There you go.
So that's
Love it. Love
um,
it.
everything's there. You can contact me. You can look at the book. You can look at everything's there. So
Love it. If you were to describe your fire in the belly in one or two words, what would it be?
one or two words. My determination to help people. That's really what for me is, that's just at the core what I want to do.
Yeah, makes sense.
What about you?
My fire in the belly?
Yeah.
Um, they've evolved actually even in the last 6 months, but I think the difference being sort of core values and moving to soul values,
Ah,
which I find is like I know it's only a wording, the imperfection of wording, but that to me, it's down to, it is love, connection, service,
oh, I like that.
so
Yeah.
it's before, because I used to say integrity and and honesty and all that, but it's quite often to have those values means you need to not have something as well.
Hmm.
So and you see that a lot in the world. You get this sort of, I value honesty. It's like, well, why do we have to bring it up?
Right. Exactly. You know what? That's exactly how I think. It's like that's a given.
Mm.
Integrity is a
So,
given.
so yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. For me, it was that sort of love and the connection, service. It's they're all there. They're just unconditional. It's like it just is.
That is, it's a perfect word. Yeah.
So so yeah. So I think for me, it's find the belly is find the belly. It's that, live by your passion or find your true you. So that's awesome. Is there a final message you'd like to leave with people?
Oh, the final message. Well, again, my mantra, I can. You know what? You can do it. Put your mind to it. Be kind. Be thankful, and watch out for stuff around you to help you guide your way. That's what I would say.
Love it. Grace, thank you so much indeed. It's been lovely to have you on the show. I've no doubt.
Thank you, Pete.
Again, and congratulations on the book, and I wish you continued success with it also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Same to you. Bye-bye.